Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I have another very special friend for you to get to know. And Erika and I, kind of like one of my past guests, Lindsay, Erika and I have known each other. Erika, how long have we known each other?
Since Sunday school,
I know, which is like,
the single digits.
yeah, like Lindsay and I grew up in like play group together, but you and I for sure we have known each other for decades, which is aging us, which, we're young mamas, okay? But still, um, I am so excited you're here because you have been a huge part of my life. You've been a huge part of my healing journey. And I have looked up to you in a way. And I think that you and I have this mutual respect for one another where we have just been such a strong team in this. I think because we've grown up together and because we've both come from a very similar background and stepping into the world of supporting our families through the world of social media, but doing it in like such a holistic and healthy and natural and not pushy or on it. We want to do it in an honest way, you know? And I am so excited for all of you to meet Erika Nolan, who is a holistic health and homestead coach. And Erika has worked with me and I have worked with Erika, and I cannot wait for you guys to get to know her and her story. So, Erika, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Brooke. I honestly wasn't expecting like tears to form at the very beginning of this conversation. It's just such an honor. I think, the journey that we've been on has been such a real emotional journey that, tapping into that and recognizing all the work along the way is just a really beautiful place. And I'm so
Mhm.
excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. I think that you and I have had something within one another where, and Kelly and I, who did a podcast recently, we were talking about this of, finding wonderful females who are also in the space and are willing to support each other, not for anything other than their, their own gain. Or you and I naturally have that, and we are such each other's cheerleaders, and we've literally done this as a team in some aspects to be able to lean on each other at different times, even if we haven't talked for, and now we talk every day, but if we haven't talked for, a few weeks at a time, like you have always known you can reach out to me and I have always reached out to you. And I would love for you to let everyone get to know you and know who you are. I know, and I've watched your path from single digits, as you just said, but I would love for you to share a little bit about who is Erika and who is Erika before the Erika that I see before me today. Like, who were you before this Erika? How did things start and where did things go?
I was a very typical American child. I ate all the junk food. I loved candy. I loved video games. I loved Barbie, like very typical child, born and raised in New Orleans. And I, through high school and college, felt like I was always a really happy person. Like that
Mm-hmm.
always felt like a huge part of my personality. And I felt like that light of happiness is kind of what guided me through so much confusion because there was so much about my childhood that, albeit normal, was
Mm-hmm.
not really normal. Like if you take a look at all of human history and our ancestors, the way that we are raised and what we eat is very abnormal.
Yeah.
And what we're exposed to socially is very abnormal. And so even though I was always in this kind of matrix reality and confused by that naturally, I always had this like bright energy and joy within me. And I think that's because I was given a lot of love as a kid. Even though
Mm.
my parents were divorced, I had my grandparents, and from all sides, I was given a lot of love. And I held on to that significantly. I went to college and got my bachelor in psychology from Arizona State University. And after that, I just felt like I needed to do something wild. I, growing up, did not have much nature around me. I just had like a standard backyard, and I felt like I needed something really wild. So I chose to spend 6 months in the Amazon in Ecuador. And that really changed my path significantly from just like going along with this program that I had been set up with to living in the jungle, walking barefoot with these, living in a cabin with no walls and snakes and tarantulas literally cohabitating with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
It was like
Delish.
this full immersion, wild experience. There was an edible garden there, composting, preservation techniques. But more than anything, Brooke, I think that was this life changing moment where I realized, like, oh my God, I'm like starving for nature. I feel like I really need all of this nature in my life. And I had no idea how to incorporate that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I went on this journey in my 20s that I feel like most 20-year-olds do, of like trying all these different things. I did PR and marketing for Neiman Marcus. I did child education. I pursued a music career in New York City, published a poetry book, like just like all these things. And I realized when I was in New York City pursuing music hardcore that the fire was not within me to do it. I saw all these singers around me with like the fire, and I love to sing and I love music, but I just didn't have that fire. And at that time, I found out that my best friend and mother had a brain tumor
Mm-hmm.
and needed to have brain surgery. And this was catastrophic. It was all at the same time where I realized, like, I'm not a New York City person. I was born and raised in the South, I'm not a city girl. And singing is not for me. So I moved back home. And at that point, I just felt like I needed something simpler. And I had this vision of maybe living like a real simple life in the countryside and growing my own food and having like a bed and breakfast. Just this
Oh, I love that.
romanticized, like simple life. It
Yeah.
sounds so lovely. Um, Meanwhile, my mom gets her brain surgery. And so all now, this experience of my mom in the medical system and me realizing what really lit me up was all happening at the same time. And I had decided that if I wanted to learn how, if I wanted this dream, I needed to take some step. And so perhaps that step would be to learn how to grow food. So I went back to school to get my certification in horticultural studies. And I was obsessed. Like going from being a C student in high school and college to like A plus 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 plus, like couldn't get enough of it. I
Mm-hmm.
was just obsessed. Clearly, this is what lit me up. And also, meanwhile, 6 months after my mom's brain surgery, we found out that she had breast cancer. And things really started shifting at this point because when she got out of the breast cancer surgery and I saw the first meal that the doctors gave her,
Mm-hmm.
green bean mush, a Sprite, like high fructose corn syrup. I didn't really know anything about health at that point, but I knew Sprite was not right
Mm-hmm.
after surgery. And when I saw that, I'm like, this is not about health.
Yeah.
And so there was like this spiritual need for me to tap into nature, but also recognizing that our medical system and our food system is messed up. It's
Mm-hmm.
not right. And so this just exponentially propelled me into figuring out how to grow food. I got my license in landscape horticulture. I used my 50 square feet of space in mid city in the back of a shotgun to grow as much as I could and have like a chicken coop, and grew in pallets and started selling like these tiny boxes of herbs, dried herbs for $5, like way in the negative, working 3 jobs. garden center, Uber driving, and at a restaurant. But I was obsessed with this plant world. I was so obsessed. And then I started a landscaping company that was organic and edible focused. And after 8 years, we had over 100 plus clients,
Mm-hmm.
both edible, ornamental, residential, commercial. And so not only was I just, a typical gardener or homesteader learning from their own experience, but I had gone through like the advanced education, and now I was learning like in 100 plus people's gardens,
Yeah.
like hyper speed learning horticulture,
Mm-hmm.
all because of health from the very get go with what I saw with my mom. And it
Mm-hmm.
didn't get easier with my mom. Like those are big time surgeries and there's big time complications as a result. And so it's still a healing process.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, as I am running this successful organic landscaping company and I'm seeing what's going on with health, I'm diving more into my own health. I'm becoming obsessed with that. I'm reading book after book after book. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, which was a huge shift for so many people,
Mm-hmm.
especially as it related to health,
Yeah.
and food security. So it was like, all of this that I experienced for 8 years had propelled me into this place of like preparedness and readiness to be able to manage a really difficult time in our history.
Mm-hmm.
And around that time, I had decided to switch my landscaping company to consulting,
Yep.
largely because of your influence.
Mm.
Well, I should just say it straight out. 100% you. That was you. And then I started consulting with people all over the world, from um, Australia to Egypt, most clients in all 50 states. And I continued doing that for 3 years and got to a point where financially I was able to take care of my family and move us to the mountains and move
Mm-hmm.
us to our dream that I had 10 years ago of a really simple life, just growing my own food
Mm-hmm.
and now coaching people all over the world. And so that was my path that got me here. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, months ago, when you had received your Hashimoto's diagnosis and you
Mm-hmm.
told me, Erika, tell me all the things. Like, what do I need to know? And I started telling you all the things. So you were like, Erika, all right, this is not enough. You're going to step into this role now as my health coach, and you're going to step into this. And I cried. I mean, I was like completely in tears because I never expected that that would even be a part of my journey. But
Mm-hmm.
in the end, like that's what all of it's about. It's
It is.
all about health, because that is the number one thing that we have if we don't have
Mm-hmm.
anything else. And without that, we can't really obtain anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am.
And so here you are. I mean, Erika did not really do her story justice. When I say that, like, Erika was in the forefront of landscape design in New Orleans, like, Erika, you blew up so fast. Like, do you remember when I saw you at Trader Joe's like years ago? And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in years. And you were like, I started this business. Now I'm doing, it was either like Tulane or UNO, like you were doing the rooftop, and like
Yes.
you were everywhere. Like you blew up. And everything you do, Erika, has turned to gold. Like, and it's because of you. It's naturally because of you. Your social media presence blew up on its own because of you and all the things that you were sharing. And it was absolutely a natural progression for you to move into supporting others with homesteading, but doing it in a capacity where at that point, you were, I remember our conversation, you were running all around, you were ready to sell like the van, from the landscaping business. And you were like, I want to keep going. But at some point when we become, you were a mom at that point and married at that point, and your homestead was beautiful in New Orleans. And you were ready to be able to support others, but more remotely rather than going from house to house to house and being on the grounds. And you had so much more to give, but you wanted to do it in a different capacity and in a different way. And watching your journey, be able to move to the country and be able to build the life of your dreams has been so awesome to just watch. And I've always looked at you as one step ahead in terms of your knowledge, especially in the holistic health realm. Of course, still in the gardening and homesteading, like we could talk all day about how I can't keep a freaking plant alive. I'll send Erika pictures all the time. I'm like, what bug is this? What? And she'll be like, well, you need this and this. And I'm like, I don't like no, no. I think it's as if I think, Erika, you're going to jump through the phone and magically appear and just do it for me when I ask you. Like that tree in my bedroom that you're like, you need to cut. Yep. Still haven't cut that sucker. It's hanging out there dead. And like, it's kind of sad. I know. I haven't brought it out for some sun. It's a shame, but I do know my lane. It's definitely not holistic gardening and homesteading. I would like to have chickens. I would like to do all this, but I'm not quite sure that I could keep everything alive. And so that's what prevents me from doing it. But you really have been one who has dug up the knowledge and pushed to find the answers and not been okay or just like, sure, like a Sprite and some like nasty ass green beans on the plate. Like that's totally fine. You've been a disruptor in terms of wanting to learn the information and diving deep, not just reading what like reading multiple books so that you can make an informed executive decision for what's best for you and your life and your family, and I'm sure supporting your mom. And I think the coolest thing was I knew deep down holistic health was where you were for sure heading, because every time you would post things about your tea or what you were cooking or all the vitamins, it seemed so overwhelming if it was just in a story. But I was like, people want to know these things. Like people want to know, there's, let's say, for instance, there's so many vitamin brands out there. There's so many tea brands out there, but not all vitamins are created equal. Not all tea brands are created equal. And not all oils are created equal. Not all the stories we've been taught, based on oils are created equal. And you have really disrupted that thought process of, no, I am going to make the best informed decision for me and what's best and right for my health. And it wasn't just me saying you need to help all of us and teach us all this who want to learn. It was our doctor as well, Dr. Keneally, who is so incredibly well respected, and she as well gave you the green light of like, Erika, spread your knowledge. Like you have it in you and you know what you're talking about. And, she's only one person. Dr. Rowe on her team is only one person. You're only one person. I'm only one person. And we can only do so much to help. And so client after client, not only do you still support others with homesteading and you have gardening packages, I mean, like you have on-demand courses, you have all of that stuff to continue helping others build the garden of their dreams or homestead, even if you have an apartment, right? But you're also added on this holistic health piece, which took off like fire. I basically was like, Erika, like I'm guys, let's get real here. This was the story. So I called Erika and I actually, we did a Zoom meeting and I was like, I'm going to pay you and you're going to be my coach. And she was like, no, it's fine. I was planning on board. I was on board anyway. And I was like, I don't think I've ever had to convince someone to take my money, because you're just so caring. And when you give 1000%, and you have given to me 1000%. And I know you give to each one of your clients, no matter what's going on with them, 10,000% with the research and the knowledge. And like, if you don't know it, you're going to read a book on it so you can make sure to support us in the correct way and dive deeper. And like I said in the beginning, I've always looked up to you because I always knew you were one step ahead. And like, I was like, I'm trailing behind her. Like I'm getting there slowly. Like, oh, I don't eat gluten anymore. Oh, but don't do this anymore. Like, oh, okay, I don't have scents in the house anymore. And like, I always felt like I was like, I have so much to learn from Erika, because you have taken a very similar life of what you and I grew up with. And, you mentioned like you grew up very, very typical, like with Barbies and this and that. But as you were saying that, I wanted to pipe in there and be like, not to mention alcohol and like like Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest and beignets and when you go to New Orleans, like, yes, it's called Fat City. I'm not calling everyone fat there, but like it that's a part of New Orleans, FYI. But it's everything's cooked in like huge amounts of butter, and it's not just cooked, it's like cooked till it's dead and it's like hanging on a plate. It's like it's just, we grew up so similarly. But what has always drawn me to you is the fact that you unapologetically chose to find a new path for you, one that felt right for you, no matter what anyone thought of you, no matter what lurking eyes were judging, or, like, our life growing up is vastly different from the life that you have now. And I've asked you this question often, and I do every now and then, but I think it's important for our listeners to hear, because I do think that so many are leading a life where they're doing what the status quo is telling them, or they're doing what society has led them to continue on, or their family beliefs, or their traditions, or societal norms. Like, what do you feel has it been for you that has led you to feel the confidence and strength and resiliency to go after the life that you want? Because it doesn't even have to be the life in the mountains and, having a huge homestead with chickens and goats and like all the things like you do now. But there are so many out there who are leading a life not in alignment with what will truly make them happy. And it's so effing scary to go after the dream. So I would love for you to share like a little bit about what either drove you, or what gave you the confidence to do it, or what was inside of you to unapologetically go after that 10-year dream.
Well, I knew from the very get go that I was absolutely in love with plants. I mean, so in love. Like, was obsessed going to the garden centers, was obsessed learning. And so I knew that I had found that fire, which I had identified was not there, right? And then I also knew that I had a really good work ethic. And so it didn't matter how new I was, I could take on these really big landscaping jobs and do all the work myself. One of my first largest jobs was a 3,000-gallon pond that I hand dug with a shovel.
That is
And
that shit. That's like the craziest thing. I tried to dig, Erica, for one of our quote COVID projects. I dug a hole in the backyard. I was like, come on, boys, let's do it. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, like out in the rain. And I was like, this is a memorial tree for my grandmother. And like I started it, so I had to finish it. But like, holy,
it
okay,
was so
impressed.
intense. And that property had so much poison ivy on it. So I was like
Oh my
working on this
gosh.
like mess. But the thing is, and like that job obviously took me way longer than I expected. I had no idea how to budget for a job like that. But I
Yeah.
did it, and I knew that no matter what, I had the work ethic to back it up and just say, you know what? If I make this mistake, I'll compensate here. And so that was my mindset in getting into other people's gardens, was if there's something that I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. Like, you do not
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about that. And I'm going to pay attention to every single detail. So
Mm-hmm.
that right there was all that I needed
Yeah.
to confidently find my place in the professional world of horticulture. There was another really big change, and it happened right around the pandemic, right before when George Floyd happened, because I had questions, like I'd never really paid attention to politics or the news. And when that happened, I just had questions,
Sure.
like based on like what I had learned about all of the variables, and I had questions. And at that time, I lost pretty much all of my friends, like
Mm,
99% of my friends, because I was asking questions. Like I had no
mhm,
definitive answers. And I think it actually all started because I didn't post a blackout square on my Instagram. So that's when I got like everything, like from people on social media and through friends. And so, where on social media I only talked about gardening, that was a period where everybody was like, whoa, like you're not standing with this. And I'm like, well, I just have freaking questions. And so, that was another huge point in my um, confidence journey, because at that point I was like, well, I've lost all my friends. I have nothing else to lose. I'm going to be completely honest about how I feel about the world.
sure.
And when I started sharing that, that's when my social media blew up.
Mhm,
And that's when I started finding more alignment and community and people that really pushed me further in this like solidarity with myself
mhm,
and feeling so strong and grounded with who I am and who I was stepping into being.
mhm,
So, I think those two variables is what really created the confidence in stepping into this.
mhm. I think though, Erica, what do you feel? Okay, so basically starting over, right? Like, and I literally wrote that note down, like starting over as you're losing your friends. Like you're not saying I don't agree with that. You're just saying I have questions. That's it, right? And for anything that's going on in the world, I do believe that we have the right to have questions. It's just, you know, it's okay, right? But starting over is the main theme that I hear for you in terms of moving from one journey of your life into the next. And, I definitely lost friends through Jonathan's passing. And there was such a grief with losing those friends. And it sometimes made me doubt, like, or I would question as I would process those griefs of like, is this me? Is this something I did? Or, and then of course I'd circle back around to be like, nope, like those relationships may not align anymore because maybe I have grown or maybe I have grown out of those friendships and that's okay. But it still doesn't mean that there isn't pain or processing through shifting, right? And I I still I still want to know, like, what was that for you in terms of this is hard. Like, I am stepping out of my comfort zone or I am going against the grain here. And like, did it feel uncomfortable for you at all? Or was it just the love of your passion? It just was like, this is so much bigger, my love for this, that it didn't even phase you in that way of grief and releasing an old life or releasing the life maybe you thought one day, I don't know, when you were a little girl, let's say, when you were playing with Barbies, you would have like, how was all of that for you?
Very painful, very extremely excruciating painful. I mean, I think at the time with the pandemic, I think I got to a place of anger pretty quickly. Like there was only so much sadness, and then it was really angry. And then it was like, but you have to realize that, like, with social media as this outlet, I was sharing how I really felt about the world and sharing my questions. And so many people started being
Mm,
like, yes, this is exactly how I feel. Thank you for sharing this. So I was getting a lot of validation. But just
mhm,
because I was getting all that validation didn't take like the feeling of loss away. And that just took, honestly, time. Like it took just
mhm,
a lot of time to get past it and realize that this is a shift in realities and I'm heading in this other direction. And also thinking about, um, still processing to this day what the life that I had as a child, like from being born in a hospital, when I probably wasn't even conscious, to my childhood, which always reflected on and thought was really happy.
Mm-hmm.
But recognizing now as a parent and what I can do now as a parent and what I can do with food, um, there's still processing of like loss with that. And I honestly don't know if that will ever go away. I think that each generation is truly healing the generational trauma prior.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the very least, if I can just give all the lessons, and in a way it forgives like everyone in my past and all of my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, like it forgives all of the things that they may not have known
Yeah.
by not questioning things
Mm-hmm.
and just going along with a program of food and medicine and child rearing. And so taking all of that and just using my life as like the next milestone for my children is all that I could ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel at peace with it all, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's I appreciate you sharing that, because for me, it definitely wasn't an easy road either. And those are moments where I have leaned in on you and been like, because I have felt like, oh, Erika's one step ahead. Like she has moved through all this. And like, there's times where I feel myself saying, nope, I think this is what I want for my life. But gosh, that is so different from the programming of what my brain thought it would be. And I mean, if you had told me I'd be a 38-year-old widowed podcasting, like social media going, like nerd, neuroscience nerd, like I would have laughed in your face, like that I'd be helping parents rather and all humans rather than just simply children. And like there has been so much that I've had to release along the way in order to find what truly feels best and right for me. And it does come with pain, and it does come with grief and its own kind of grief, not just when you lose a spouse grief. Like there is grief in loss of friendships. There is grief in loss of maybe even having and even if they don't say it out loud, like the expectation of our parents being like, well, like, but I still did it. I still looked at fear in the face and I was like, this is what's best and right for me. This is where I feel called. And I have such passion, and so do you, for the work that we do. And we are living very slowly. We continue to move towards our most aligned selves in terms of how we want to live our lives. To kind of some of the conversations that some of us are either uncomfortable to have, or feel heavy, or feel like the darker side of things, or the uncomfortable, but most importantly for sharing your story of how you have found a way to make your life your own and unapologetically do that and what's best and right for you. And I love you so much, and I can't thank you enough for personally all that you've done for me and being such a huge supporter for me and loving me. And I'm your biggest cheerleader as well. And thank you so much for doing this today.
I love you so much. I think the world of you. I think it's funny because when you say, like you feel like you're a step behind, like I see you as like right there, if not like a step ahead as well. Like this is the beauty of our individual paths. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm so inspired by you. And I am just so excited to see what's to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you'll be back for sure. And until next time, XOXO, Dr. B.